This time on Burnouts and Rotor Blades, we're working on the Squarebody Dually and its leaky radiator. Roll the intro. Welcome to the Burnouts and Rotor Blades YouTube channel. Let's go do something awesome. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is a pleasure to have you back to the channel as always. And this time we're fixing Moby, the 1984 Chevy 1-ton dually. So, Squarebody's overheating again. No big surprise there. It's just gotten to the point where every time I drive it, it just leaks out. So I pulled the radiator out and I took it to a radiator repair shop. He basically said there were so many sections leaking from the radiator that you'd have to pinch off a number of these. You could see the rust running down here. He said it was leaking from like up here. You know, there's sections on this side that are leaking. There's leaking in between, in the middle. Whoever installed this, previous owner problems, had not cleaned out the cooling system properly and then filled it with water. So there was a ton of like rust particles cruising through, which acts as sandpaper on this very, very soft material. So I've ordered another one. One thing I will fault Champion radiators cooling systems for is the use of these really cheap little fans. So this all comes as a kit from Champion. It is for this particular application. The part number for this application is going to be MC716, is the 4-core radiator that has a transmission cooler for the Squarebody application. MC716 4-core Monster Series. The problem is we custom mounted this radiator using riv nuts, and that's only a problem because now that we're switching the radiator over, I have to go get more riv nuts, which means I have to drive back to San Antonio because I forgot to get them whenever I was at the house earlier. Right now, as you may notice, I am not at our normal shop. I am actually finally doing our first video here in Texas, and I'll take you and show you why we're not at the house. The house flooded. So over to the house real quick and I'll show you what happened there.
So you need your master bedroom?
It's just a lot. Just got back from the house. I got all of the bits and pieces that we're gonna need to do the project here. I'm not gonna mount these fans the exact same way that they had been mounted by either the previous owner or by Leadfoot Racing or Champion radiators. We're not gonna use these self-tappers, which go in for my opinion, a bit too far. Self-tappers to put things in, I just don't like it. Never been a fan of it, especially whenever you imagine that this thing kind of has a little bit of give to it. I just don't want that near my radiator that I spent $300 on. So we can take and put this radiator. So one thing about Texas is the humidity. That's taking a little getting used to. The other thing is the skeeters. They are fierce out here. So I moved to the indoors where there's a fan when I'm not actually recording in order to just keep them away from me. I went and got myself a drill bit that is just a touch bigger than my riv nuts. The riv nut, in case you're curious, came in this assortment. It is a 1/4 by 20. Drilled my hole, then I took the old deburring tool on the back side and just deburred that real quick. Then you give it a little, you gotta close your eyes when you do this, it's important, just to clean it off. And then you take your riv nut gun, you can drop this guy in there, bam. You just give it one of these right here, just where you feel the resistance kind of pick up, and you can unspin it. I went ahead and I put riv nuts underneath all of this, riv nuts for these here, and you know, on the top as well. I gotta go get a couple more bolts, but because this is so tight up against here, I decided to use Allen's, so cap head screws. I do want to swap over to a different fan. I'm not super impressed with how these were, but honestly the problem with the cooling system is probably more to do with the leaky radiator than the actual fans. Although I did buy some Spall fans to replace these, but it's going to require some modification later. So for the time being, we're just going to go ahead and leave these on. But here comes the rain, and it's too loud to talk now. So next time you see me, we'll be installing it in the truck. Maybe today, I don't know. So I just got the radiator in. I went and put my riv nuts on the top of this to hold it down. But now we're going to fire it up, make sure that it doesn't overheat, and then the truck will be back in business, except for this monstrosity right here. These cheap Amazon circuit boards or whatever the heck they're called suck. Shop dog, Mocha. Waiting for the thermostat to open. Got my hand on the upper radiator hose, and you'll be able to feel it. I have to add transmission fluid to it just because we took off these lines, and the radiator, you know, has this cooler inside of it. After shutdown, it should run for 5 minutes. That's what I have it set for. Fan key off should be for 300 seconds, and it's still powered up right now. Well, I have been messing with this thing, and you can see it sparking up like that. That connector is no good. Get this thing apart, and it's like super melty in there. Super melted. It is not the prettiest, but hopefully it will cool. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and we haven't really touched the truck much since we put the radiator in and did all the wiring for the fans, and I thought that honestly that was the end of our issues with cooling. Well, we went to take it out this morning, and sure enough we had a little problem with it overheating again, which is at this point it's just like blowing my mind. What else could it possibly be, right? So we started digging into it. After a ton of work trying to diagnose why the second fan isn't coming on, we got it nailed down to this bus bar, which I put on in Las Vegas and was working fine. What is kind of a surprise is that the corrosion drug back into the actual wire. We're gonna rip those terminal blocks out, and I've got these right here that are from Dinkel. They are 6-gang nickel plated brass, and they're supposed to be rated for marine use. So this should do a little better than those, I hope. We're also gonna, instead of doing what I did here, which was Vegas friendly, and just using heat shrink, we're gonna use heat shrink connectors for these as well. While we're doing that, I got this radiator flush. Part of the problem with our radiator was the fact that it got a bunch of holes in it, and that was caused by some of the corrosion inside, or at least that's one of the potential causes. We drove the truck down the road, got it nice and hot, got this stuff cycling through, so I'm gonna go ahead and drain that while we're working on this. Oh yeah. That's what the two metal connectors look like and how corroded they were. The next precaution we're going to take is this dielectric grease from Permatex, and we're going to smear that all over all of this stuff to make sure that this corrosion doesn't go any deeper and doesn't get any worse. So I'm going to screech it into each one of these, and then we'll coat the top of this, and I'm going to put it into every one of these holes here in a minute to make sure that it's not an issue of corrosion anymore. Part of the problem here is that I just didn't use, you know, proper stuff to, you know, insulate this from water and rust. But the second part of it was whenever the battery exploded. Problem is, the battery is exploded, and Optima is just steaming out of the top of it. And it put battery acid all over the top of our electrics board that I made really nice when I was in Las Vegas. And then we moved down to Texas, and guess what? All the humidity and stuff caused some really gnarly corrosion, and unfortunately it caused a lot of electrical issues on there as well. The cool thing about my fans is that I have it set up on a Dakota Digital electronic fan controller, so I can connect to it through my phone. I can run the diagnostics to see how I have all my gauges set up, how many seconds the delay is after I turn it off, what the actual current temperature is, and where all my temperatures for on, off for my low speed and high speed fans are. Then I can go back, I can go to setup, go to fan. I can see that I have 2 fans set up, not one dual speed fan, 300-second delay, and then I can test it. I can go low speed and 1 fan turns on, or I can go high speed and both fans turn on. So let's fill up the coolant again, because we drained that a little bit earlier, and take it for a test drive. We gotta put the plug back in first. Okay, it plugs in.
Son of a biscuit.
Now if I want to know how close my temperature is, I can go to diagnostics. It'll tell me my current temperature is only 103. Now that it's sucked down a little bit and you can see it moving around, I know that my thermostat's open. There's my first fan, so I know I'm at 165, but also the app tells me I'm at 165. As soon as the AC comes on, my second fan should be on, and if I check, sure enough, both fans are on. And you can see both fans are on, and it's staying at around the 170 mark. Got back with the truck. It did awesome on the little test drive we took it on. 190 on the temperature gauge with the AC on in Texas, where it's 100 and something degrees outside right now. So I'm very happy with that for right now. If you like what you've seen so far and you want to see more stuff like it, or you want to see the next things that I do with this or the Vega or the Malibu or any of the other vehicles I've been working on, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon for notifications. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. You're gonna what?
One back into Grandma's house to get to go
Blood,
to the bathroom.
Blood, you're a boy. Just go pee over there.